I've done this before, but I have to tell you, with a mic this close to my mouth, this is as close I'll ever get to Madonna. Thank you, Bob, for this reading. And I want to thank Pen and Pencil Club for putting up with poets all these years, and I hope you keep doing it. Let's show Bob our appreciation. My sister poets, Anita Hall, Allison Lubar, fabulous readings. Thank you so much. And all of you who are reading in the open tonight, I can't wait to hear you. Thank you for being here. So, this isn't a lecture, but I have been thinking about the issue of appropriation. And why? I've been thinking, is that better? About the issue of appropriation. And why? Alabama. I don't want my life appropriated. I don't want my daughter's life, your life, anybody's. And then, what about Missy Katie in her green dress in her kitchen?
It's Alabama.
Whoa. Really? So, this reading tonight. So, the thing is, how can you get close to someone else, to something else, whether it's sentient or not sentient? How can you get in there and really feel, or maybe feel, or imagine closely enough without imposing your own judgment, biases, etc., even your own thoughts? And yet, every time I write a poem, that's what I'm hoping I can do. I'm hoping I can get in that space that is not me, not impose on it, and somehow say it. So, here's one poem that maybe does it. I gotta say it's about sex, because that is one way to do it, right? Oh, it's in here. Based on a scientific fact, blue light survives direct passage through Earth's atmosphere. Open me. One of us says, lips gentian from long kissing. My eyes open in your eyes, open in my eyes. Our irises retracted, fracturing into the generic shape of leaf or flame. What's universal in us, out there. Blue ether. Blue beyond the dimpled sheen of mouth-blown window glass, beyond the percolation of the clouds of atmosphere, out beyond gravity, where bodies spin free of the tug of other bodies. From the most open we can imagine, blue light, passing directly into our room as we come apart, nebulous, cast loose in its sweep. And now here's another. I'm sorry, I'm working with old books. My first chapbook, 1985. And look, I have to show you. Beautifully designed with a decal edge in green. Are books made like this? Yes, some are. So, and now we have a sort of a converse of that. The animated woman in the mirror. You wake up too soon to grayness. Not the absence of light, not the absence of color. An echo of grayness that sound above sleep, that your senses rise up to. Footfall on stair tread, thumbnail on doorknob, stranger's breath, dark face, eyes like double January moons, distant, cold, his voice clicks, commands. I'll key you if you scream. Turn on the light. You click on the switch. The lamp fires light like a bullet backed up in its chamber, flies down the barrel, potent with flame. He clicks back the blued hammer. His gun is the only real thing in your room. Stuck in the edge of the mirror's frame, a woman's head. Stuck in its center, her torso. Caught by a lens larger than that room, that hammer click a shutter which shifts the scope of your life. Take it off, doll. Hands in the mirror lift flannel over knees, hips, breasts, shoulders, head. An animation of a woman undressing in a mirror. You watch her with the stranger. In the mirror, the gun sight flicks the woman's upper lip, stuck on his. She lavs her lips over her teeth, leans into the barrel. Her mouth slides toward the chamber, back to the tip. Her eyes, looking out from the mirror, see nothing, while you, merely watching, curl your tongue away from the barrel's blue cold. You want the mirror to stop its movie and the stranger in this theater that once was your room to leave before he speaks again. Tell me to fuck you. The female animation in the mirror lifts her mouth from the barrel. What? A dark love enters the mirror like a rocket, exploding on her cheek. She sobs. Her tears are salt in your mouth, in the wounds of your eyes. You shut them. Better blind than a witness to a victim you don't know. And just as I said Alabama to that poem, I will say Bruno Fatazzoli, who was chief of detectives in Harrisburg during that period, when he said, well, don't worry, we'll catch him in the act. Oh. So the problem with that poem for me, writing it, was that it did not happen to me. And so how could I enter that and do justice? No, that isn't it, because there's no justice in this. How could I enter that and tell a story that was not mine in a way that we could make it all a story for all of us? So, but what happens when the voice goes so far into the interior of that person, place, event, everything disappears? How do you write that when it's just swept up in a raw moment? In the head, it is dark. A monologue where not a hunch meets hunch. A standoff where she cancels I. Mouth filled with dirt and night, it's straightforward libel. So thinking about telling stories that are not your own, I wrote a book that is mostly stories that are my mother's, or little bits of stories around one big story in my mom's life. It's a story of her late-term abortion under dire circumstances. Either the child would die, or she would die, or they both would die. A hard choice, but remember, this is a choice that is being denied to women in our nation. So, couldn't make them persona poems. That would be a little too close to being my mom, and I could not do her right, you know? So they're third person, but they're kind of, I don't know, when I was writing them, I was reading Virginia Woolf, and I was thinking, okay, let her influence me. You know, let us have, maybe not stream of consciousness, but some sort of interior stream. So this is called Salt. Sunday she's spotted, just a few rosy drops. Now pads can't soften up. She doesn't want to lose it. She's done what the doctor said. Nothing. Gone to bed. So why this bone-pressing weight, this weariness, heavier than the velvet comforter she curled under at home, chilled to the pearl half-moons of her thumbs by the burn that throbs, still throbs, her womb, until until her body froze into a rigid arc under a mauve quilt someone was lifting. The burn flames and dims like curtains puffed out and collapsed by wind. Those kitchen Priscillas almost splattered by blaze when bacon grease jumped red hot from the cast iron skillet. She'd frozen then too. Her papa's sudden hand rummaging the cupboard, a wide streamer, crystal white, snuffing flame to a smear of yellow in the black pan. And then the metal stool shoved under her buttocks, how she drooped as though her life drained off. Salt. What snuffs out. What her now dry mouth feels like it sucked. What the white-robed doctor and black-skirted nun who circled the table wear. Her feet are in stirrups. She's strapped into place. What they seem to be saying, not to her, though she hears them, but to each other. Salt. What does it mean? Salt it out. My mother and father were Roman Catholic, and so she had to learn to live with that decision. Reinventing virtue. In the bathroom, she squats like it says on the box, pinches the rubber disc, inserts. God, she thinks, I hope it's hidden. Not God, no, she doesn't want him here. She doesn't want to think about him there, looking over Johnny's shoulder, looming over hers. Him pointing his finger at sins far beyond the taking of his name, for preening, for priming her flesh, for the vanity of marrying to ease their bodies' burn. She doesn't want the way he's made them, man and woman, to lead her into the increase that means death, because her womb turns toxic when it swells. No thanks. She washes between her legs in case Johnny sniffs his finger like he does sometimes. Suppose he smells the cream that kills the sperm. Suspects there'd be hell to pay. Better a secret to confess in the priest's dark cell. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I got this rubber disc to save my marriage. That young priest might buy it. Give her a couple of novenas, let her off the hook her faulty woman's body has her hung on, delicate and limp, as the charmeuse robe she is slipping into, chastely closing, as if purity were possible, with a disc, like a maidenhead, invisible inside, that reinvents in her the virtue of a brand new bride. I think, though I don't know, because she never spoke of it, that my mother got in, or found, or made an uneasy sense of peace with herself as the mother of that child, and herself as the mother of living children, who, of course, didn't know at that time that their presence made the absence so much more. I don't even know what, so much more. So this is in my backyard when I was a kid, there was a mock orange bush. So a mock orange bush smells like oranges, but there's no fruit. mock orange on wash day. The washboard drying, ripples in sunlight, revealing nothing of what work is over to make it shine that way. Nothing of the morning's wash that wrenched her shoulder blades where the grade school nun said, "Angel wings grew before you plunged to birth." Wings abandoned in heaven, they claimed, with your halo. Her only halo now is her family's careless grime circling the set tub until the clothes rise bright and unsmudged as a name for a baby who's barely here before she's gone. Amy Beth. The lift and fall of its melody, all that remained to make that name mean, to weight it, bow it low as the clothesline where shirts, shorts, underthings she's hung, shimmer like spirits of children, releasing damp to noonday heat. In a haze, a halo, ascending, disappearing, fragile as the airy scent of mock orange blossoms, scent that disassembles, as she names it, gone, like that. Well, a shift here to focus on my family lineage, a lineage that I know not enough about. I can't seem to find my great-grandmother in the census records. She had to have lived because I am here. So I think about this, and I search a little. I should probably hire someone. She would be found. And I was looking at prints by the German printmaker, artist, Katie Kollwitz. There's going to be a huge show opening at MoMA. You must see it. You have to see it. Of course, will you? But it's marvelous. Anyway, so I was looking at this print titled Grape, and I wrote a lot about it. And then one day I looked at it again, and this is what happened. So the title is, "Rape is not a word they would have used." Who is rising from the bottom land of missing, from the almost forgotten back talk, stoop? From the almost, I'm going to start again. Who is rising from the bottom land of missing, from the almost forgotten back stoop talk of ants? Is this the girl I've been searching for, whose name I don't know, or was too young to know I needed to remember? They said she boarded a ship, whose name I don't know. They said she came to keep house for a widower, whose name I do know, and his sons, whose names I know, who lived in a cold water walk-up in Brooklyn. They said, at least he married her. They said, at least he didn't give the baby to the sisters when she died. This girl who rises has written herself in me, inscribed in my mother and in my mother's mother, who this girl died to birth. This girl who rises, still hungry for a plate of soup, a bit of meat. She is my marrow. I am her blood. Two more. Again, I could write a lecture about, no, I could never do that, but I could give a lecture about appropriation and how it fits with all these poems. But, I just want you to have the poems. So this is called Evolution of the Species. And Darwin appears in it, and the finches. So, okay, I just say this really quickly because maybe everybody here knows, but Darwin is on the island of Hispaniola in the Galapagos, and he sees this finch fluff his feathers, and it's a thick beak. But When he was on the island of Floriana, he had to watch the finch fluff its feathers, and it was a thin beak. Okay. When young Darwin stood on the littoral sands of Hispaniola and watched the finch fluff its feathers with a thickish beak, and saw the seeds it pecked larger and thicker than the seeds carried by the thin-beaked finch on Floriana, he ceased to see the finch and saw instead the principle of evolution, witnessing the fact of change long after the unmarked instant of evolving had occurred, at a time so distant it preceded date. Function, which form follows, had changed. Thick seeds are best split with thick beaks, and small, thin-hulled seeds with thin. I follow function by forfeit, turning away, an involuntary repulsion which slips me into a gravitation toward, I don't know why, but not you. The event of my new direction is an eon I peer across, locating where you become an other, a body I do not touch, a body I have left behind. I cannot cross back to you. If I resist my turn away, you will be my ruin. But if I release your grip and step beyond reach, then you become a foreign species, unable to adapt to my microsphere. And since it's spring, and my friend Erica, who lives in Princeton, said she took a walk in the woods and the frogs were everywhere singing. We'll have a final poem. We have to begin with sex, we'll end with sex. Actually, it's been sex all through this reading, but, or at least attraction, unattraction, but now the frogs shall have it. Spring peepers. Night rise in the salt meadow. Spring peepers. A vibrato that tingles. Spring peepers. The trilling ramps up to aggressive in years when their densities increase or low-pressure nor'easters swing landward and brine floods the marshes at neap or high tide. It's tough to ride out a storm, yet sing on with a chorus of breeders laid low, clinging to rushes and elders pelted with snow, reaching deeper into your thorax to ratchet up a mate with me call that's much sweeter than anyone else's. How does a she choose the right one for her keeper from this horny bel canto corral? What Tinderbait curve could be steeper than hers, surrounded by racket pegs genetic success on one tiny leaper? Whose song will rouse you from slumber, my eggs? Or will our line be cut off by the reaper?